Welcome to Rock and Metal Songwriting, where I help you go from riff ideas to fully finished songs. I'm Quincy Kane, and this is day number 5 of my 20-day songwriting question challenge. Today's question is, how do I know when my song is done? And I'm realizing I have my speakers on, sorry. How do I know when my song is done? We're going to dive into that question today, but if you have questions yourself, don't be shy, say hello, type them in the comment section. Even if you're watching on the replay, go ahead, type your question. I'll do my best to reply to it and give you an answer for it. But we're going to focus primarily on this question. How do I know when a song is done? And this can be a real problem because it's super easy, if we're not careful, to just spend all our time constantly working on just one idea. There's always something to tweak. There's always something to refine. There's always other options to explore or variations to experiment with. So it's very possible that you can spend all this time creating like every angle, every possibility on a single idea, but never actually get it done. And we need to be careful of that. We don't want to become perfectionists where we're trying to make this thing perfect. We don't want to waste all our creative energy on just one idea. We really want to get it done, and we'll clarify what that means. How do you know when it's done? But we want to get it done so we can move on and go on to write other songs and take what we learned and move on. And that's the most important thing to remember, is that every project you work on, first off, it's a learning opportunity. And that's the best way to view it, is it's a snapshot of where you are at in life right now. It doesn't need to be a perfect song. It doesn't need to be the greatest song you've ever written. It's simply just a snapshot of where you're at in life right now. And so recognize it as an opportunity to take the skills that you have, to take the knowledge that you currently have, and to learn something new, to say, I'm going to try something new with this song, learn from it, and that will give you the skills to move on. And what's great about it, it's okay if it's not perfect, because there's no reason why you can't go back and refine it later when you do have more experience. And even if you never go back and refine it, there's something special about your early songs. When you first write them, you might be hard on yourself, and you might think it's not good enough. You might kind of criticize yourself. But years later, you'll come to appreciate your earlier work because it does a few things. One, it's actually a great symbol. It's a great representation or reference of where your skill level was and how much you've progressed since then. You know, if you come right out of the gate and all your songs are always great, you never really have much to measure your progress with. But if your first song is a little rough, and then a year later you come back, you've written more songs, and you come back and you check out one of your old ideas, you'll have a new perspective and sort of a new appreciation of saying, wow, I've gotten a lot better. I can see the potential in what I was coming up with, though. And if you still like the idea, that's when you can maybe revisit it and refine it and update it to your current skill level. Or you might just let it represent, that's who I was at that time in life, and I can see how far I've come since then. So that's something to keep in mind with your songs, is it's a way to measure your progress. It's a journey. And so enjoy that journey. Enjoy each project for what it is. Don't get stuck on it and think that it has to be the end-all, be-all, most perfect, greatest song you've ever written. It just needs to be a snapshot of where you're currently at in life. So let it be that. So how do we actually know when a song is done, though? You know, how can we say, all right, this song is done, time to move on? Well, first off, I would say you need a clear definition. When is a song finished? And to me, a finished song is one that you are able to perform. If you're able to perform it, if you're able to show it to somebody, it's done. So what that means is, if you can pick up a guitar and say, hey, I've been working on this song, let me show it to you. Or not working on the song, if you're saying, here's a song I finished, let me show it to you. And you can play the song from beginning to end, sing it for them, and it's done. You know, there you go. That is a done song. It doesn't have to be fully produced. It doesn't have to be a song that you've released and it's on Spotify or wherever else, or on YouTube. It just needs to be a song that you're able to perform, or a song that you can record a demo for. It's a song that maybe you're using recording software and you've got the full arrangement recorded. You've got a drum beat. It might not even be the final drum beat, but you've got a drum beat that plays from beginning to end for the duration of the song. You've got a bass layer, you've got your main melody, and you've got words for the vocals to sing. If it's a full song, you can hit play and listen to it from beginning to end. It's done. That's a fully finished song right there. And yes, there are things you can refine. You can come up with other instrument layers. You might refine the drum beat. You might try different drum beats. You might tweak the lyrics some. There's a lot of things you can always tweak and refine, but at the end of the day, we want to get the core things. What are the core foundational things that we need to have in order to qualify the song as done? In order to qualify the song as something that is able to be performed. And we've talked about that. Kind of the main focus for this week, this week of questions, has been about starting songs and clarifying when is it finished, how do you get it done, how do we actually finish the song. And a big part of that is having a structure, having a map for your song, recognizing what you have, what are the parts that you already have for that map, and what are the parts that are missing, what are the parts, the blanks that you still need to fill in. So, for example, let's say you've got a song, maybe you've got a verse and a chorus, and so the song feels mostly done. You've kind of got verses, and you sing a little bit, you give a little bit of info or context about what the song is about, and then the chorus is your main statement. You're singing the main point of the song. You've got your main, you're singing that title, that lyric that encompasses the meaning of the song. And you've got maybe this nice riff that you're playing in the verse, and then you've got this big chord progression that you play in the chorus. So that's great, but you're still having trouble, like, okay, I've kind of got this, but I still don't really know how I want to start the song. Okay, so that's something missing. I don't know where else to go with it. Well, in a typical song structure, verse, chorus, you might just need a bridge. That bridge could be as simple as, it could be a new section that you're singing with if you feel like you need that. If you feel like the song's already going on too long, maybe it's just a simple guitar solo before it goes back into the chorus. Maybe it's a breakdown. Maybe you feel like the song needs like a heavy section before you bring everything to a big finale. But whatever that missing element is, some kind of bridge element. So intro, we're missing that. Bridge element, we might be missing that. Sing that chorus one last time, and then we just need to figure out, okay, how do we make a nice, satisfying ending? It might be one last instrumental that works as an outro and completes the song. So it's like, okay, I just need a way to start the song. Focus on that. How do I want to introduce this song? If you need some ideas, listen to a few different songs. Listen to some songs that kind of have a similar vibe to what you're writing. Listen to how they start theirs and let that inspire how you could start your song, what your intro could be. Once you've got the intro, okay, now we need a bridge. The bridge, it might just be a new chord progression. It might be a breakdown riff, something heavy. Or again, it might just be a simple, you might just play the chorus progression and then just have a guitar solo, and that kind of works as your bridge. That kind of breaks things up a little bit. And usually after the bridge, you'll go back into the chorus. The bridge, if it is a new section, you might say, okay, well, the song has talked about this and this. I feel like I need to say this. I feel like there's one last thing I need to say, like one final statement about this song to kind of wrap it up nicely and bring it to a conclusive end. So the bridge can serve that purpose. The bridge can be one new chord progression where the focus of the lyrics is to say sort of the last message, the last wording to get your message across. And then finally you go into the chorus, and then you just need an outro. Once again, you can listen to songs as a reference for how they end their songs. And just get some inspiration for what might make a good finish. And once you've got that, you're done. Maybe you've got all the music, you don't have the words yet. Well, there you go. Then you just need to write lyrics for your song. And lyrics can be a little tricky because, again, especially for me, I can be a real perfectionist just trying to find the exact perfect words, the exact perfect phrasing. And really what you need to do is figure out what you're trying to say and then just learn to settle for something that at least accomplishes that. So whenever it comes to lyrics, you always want to start wide. Don't try to sprint to the finish line and write the perfect line. When you're writing your chorus, you're trying to figure out what is the song about. Start wide first. Just whatever topic you've decided to dive into, whatever you're trying to express, figure out what do you want to say about that and find what's the most interesting angle or that you really want to dive into. What's sort of the metaphors or the analogy that you want to use for that song. That's going to kind of narrow your vocabulary so you know what kind of words and what kind of phrasing to use. 1 second, don't want my computer dying on me. I've been eyeballing that battery and it's going down. So And then once you get that chorus done, usually writing the lyrics for your chorus first is super helpful because that gives you the main point of your song. And then your verses kind of support that. Your verses go into a little more detail. Usually your verses are going to contrast what the chorus is saying because they're going to set it up. So, if you're singing a song about perseverance, maybe the chorus is, I won't give up, I'm going to persevere. Verse 1 can be talking about how tough the challenge is, how some days you feel like giving up, you don't feel like you can carry on. Describe that. Be emotive and expressive with the kind of words and phrasings to help the listener identify and also be able to feel what you're trying to express. Don't just inform them. Try to help them feel what you're trying to express through the song. Some days I feel like giving up, but the chorus, but I'm not going to give up because I got something worth fighting for. I've got something to keep going on. That's what your chorus can say. And then verse 2, it can be keeping that motivation. So verse 2, it's again, you want to create that setup. What are you doing to stay strong? What are you looking to? Who are the people who inspire you, or what's driving you to keep going? And then so you're kind of mapping out, you're figuring out what you're going to talk about before you've even written the lines. And then little by little, you start to get more specific. A great tip is to write the line, but don't worry about the rhyme. Don't worry about matching it with your melody or the rhythm of the song. Just write out, what do you want the first line of that verse to say? And it's often better to work backwards. What do you want the last line to say? What are you leading up to? Like, how do you want the verse to end? And then that kind of helps you know what the verses before need to say. And so you're literally just writing out, verse 1, things are tough. Verse 2, it's been I've learned a lot. Verse 3, but I'm going to keep going. Verse 4, because of this. And then that sets up the chorus, something like that. So you're writing the intention behind each line, and then you can get more specific. So kind of detoured a little bit, but the point is you can map out what the song needs to say. And if you find that you've been writing for a while and you're still stuck, then just come up with something that works. Sometimes you just got to get it done and just say, hey, I've been on this song too long now. I've been working on the song for over a month now, and I need to wrap it up. So just come up with a temporary line that works. It might not be the best line. Not every line has to be a home run. Sometimes you just need a line to get the job done so that you at least have something to sing and you can perform it. And so that's where kind of this next tip comes in. Like once you've checked those boxes, your song is done. It might not be perfect. It might not be as good as you'd like it to be, but at least it's done. And then instead of wasting your energy on this one song, it's a nice palate cleanser to move on to a new idea. You've got that one done. Move on to something new, and you feel kind of a fresh start, and you can take what you learned from that song and apply it to this new one. And it kind of gives you a new burst of energy to tackle something new rather than kind of grinding through and trying to force yourself to finish this other one. This other song, I will say sometimes it is necessary. You might need to set a deadline for yourself. You might need to have the discipline to say, okay, I'm spending way too much time on this song. Here's the deadline. Here's the date. I got to have something by then, and it might not be as good as I want it to be, but by that date, whatever it is, that's it. It's done, and sometimes that's kind of how it goes for song releases. You'll hear a lot of artists say that songs are never truly finished. They're just released. Because again, like I said at the beginning, the truth is you could work on a song forever. You could keep refining and tweaking. You could come up with something new. We're talking about the creative process here. Creative ideas are almost endless. So you could spend forever trying different possibilities. And if you do that, you're never going to get anything done. There's a season for that. In the beginning, in the creative process, there's a season of exploration and trying something out, but eventually you have to commit to something. And you got to stop wondering what other possibilities are there, what other angles could you do. Eventually you just got to settle for something that works, gets the job done, and move on. And sometimes deadlines can be helpful of just saying like, okay, here's the date. When I reach this date, the song is done. And that's it. I'm just going to commit to that being the finished version of the song. Move on to something else. And like I said, there's no rule that says a year later something, you can't come back and revisit that idea. But if you're always stuck on it and you're never moving on to writing new songs, you're going to slow down your progress. So I hope that gives you some tips. Get those songs done. Just find the parts that you're missing, the parts that actually help it be a complete idea. And once it's done, accept it for what it is. Remember, it's just a snapshot of where you're currently at in your journey, in your songwriting journey. And as you get better, you'll actually learn to appreciate that. Even if it's not as good as you want it to be, you'll be able to look back and appreciate, hey, look how far I've come. Here's where I was, here where I was starting, and I've come a long way since then. So hopefully those tips are helpful. Silas, good to have you in the chat. We've got a few minutes left, so if you have any songwriting questions, feel free to ask them, and I'll do my best to answer them. But this particular video, the question for today was, how do I know when a song is done? And that's what we were discussing. So the main thing is just recognize what your song is missing. If you've got a chorus and you still need a verse, get that verse written. Make sure you've got a way to transition into that intro going into the verse. If the song feels like it has all the parts, but it still needs words, get those words written. If it needs kind of one final statement, maybe you need to write a bridge for it, come up with an outro, but make sure you've got all the pieces that function as a song. And if you're having trouble identifying those pieces, again, compare it to another song. Look at another song and say, what does this song have that mine is missing? And then whatever yours is missing, set out to write something that gets the job done. The goal isn't always to write the greatest thing ever. Like, yes, that's nice. It's nice when you write something that's awesome, but again, when your project's going on too long, when you're spending too much time on it, sometimes you just got to get something that's good enough, something that gets the job done. I would say when you're first starting off, I mean, it depends how often you're writing, but I think there's no reason why you can't get a song done in a month. You know, sometimes when you're super inspired, it's very easy to get a song done. I mean, I think I've written songs in a day before, and that's just on the guitar. You know, if I have an idea on the guitar and I just feel inspired and I write the lyrics, get it done in a day. I think a week is pretty reasonable also getting it done. But honestly, sometimes that inspiration isn't always there. Sometimes you've got an idea, but you still have to find ways to conjure up that inspiration and work with that idea. And so sometimes you need a whole month to kind of sit with the idea and explore it and try different options. I think a month is pretty reasonable. Once you start getting over a month, that's where you either need to draw a line in the sand and say, okay, I've been on this project long enough, I need to get it done, or just put that project on hold and move on to something else and maybe come back to it later. Again, that one I'm not as big a fan of, because if you don't want to make it a habit of having all these unfinished ideas. But I do think it is important to consistently move on to something new. You don't want to move on too consistently. You know, if you've only been messing with an idea for a week and then you're already on to something new and that idea isn't finished, then again, same problem. You're just going to have all these unfinished ideas. But if you've been working on the same idea for a month and it isn't done yet, you need to really try to get it done. At least get a draft version done. Just say, hey, in my head, I know this song isn't really where I want it to be, but at least if I had to perform it, I could. You know, make it at least complete, at least done to where you could perform it, and then you can move on to something else, and then later come back after a few songs, after working on a few other songs, come back and maybe revisit that. So Silas, I don't know if you're still there. If you have a question, great. If not, you can even leave it after. You know, if anyone's watching on the replay, you can leave a question and I'll get to answering it. So that was our question for today, and I hope you found that helpful. This was day 5. We're going to take a break for the weekend, and we'll be back with day 6 on Monday. So again, I'm doing these streams Monday through Friday. This was week 1. Week 2 will start on Monday next week. If you want a little sneak peek, Monday's question is going to be, how do I write a catchy metal riff? So we're going to get more into actually conjuring up ideas, and not just ideas to work with, but ideas that sound good, ideas that we can be excited about. So there's a little sneak peek of what is to come. I hope you found those tips helpful. If you have any questions or maybe any tips your own that have worked for you, feel free to share them in the comment. And if you feel like you're ready to take your songwriting to the next level and would be interested in working one-on-one with me, there is a link in the description to apply for a free coaching call. That's all for today. Until next time.